All right, everyone, welcome back to JPC Spiritual Talk. It's Jared Campbell. So Eastern Europe heats up. 60 billion aid package to Ukraine. Who foots the bill? In this comprehensive report, we will explore how rapid the situation in Eastern Europe is evolving. Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has announced 60 billion in annual military commitments from international allies, marking a significant escalation in the conflict. Meanwhile, Russia has launched missile strikes on Ukrainian airfields, complicating plans for deploying F-16 fighter jets. We'll also examine the broader geopolitical implications, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s critique of U.S. foreign policy, concerns about President Biden's leadership, and escalating tensions involving NATO and Russia. Stay tuned for an in-depth analysis of these critical developments and their potential impact on the global stage. So I'm going to get the screen shared over. We're going to first listen to a voice recording from a friend of mine in Ukraine. I just want you to listen to what he's saying. It's about a 2-minute voice recording.
Hey Jared, I want to run a news thing by you, and you tell me if you heard of it at all. If not, you haven't. If you did, you did. Did you know that there was a staff member or attaché to the U.S. Embassy that was killed in Kiev? The question is it's a little strange how he died. He died of natural causes, but he arrived to Ukraine on June 15th. But yet he died in the hotel room. If that doesn't ring a bell for you, he was also an auditor to chase where money was being spent in Ukraine. So, this is my point in saying and asking in a general sense. Have you seen any news of this? If I'm correct, you have not. If I'm incorrect, you have heard of it, but you heard of it with something like he died of natural causes. I'm throwing this out there because, I know of at least 3 stories that are all U.S. related, and they're not even covered by the U.S. news at all. And, it's really funny because Ukrainians know about these stories. They know that there was probably an assassination, and yet Americans don't know a single dang thing. Think about that. I'm supposed to live in a dictatorship, right? Think about it. Think about it like in a weird inside a bubble, outside a bubble, inside a bubble type of way. Just a thought.
He also sent this. So we're going to kind of zoom in on this. And it says, naturally by his death. In our country, everyone who checks the authorities regarding finances dies from blood pressure and heart failure, or in the extreme case, epilepsy. The body of the U.S. Embassy attached in Ukraine was found in Kiev Hilton Hotel. Yesterday, about 11 a.m., the body of the attaché of the U.S. Embassy was found hotel room. No signs of violence were found on the body. The diplomat arrived in Ukraine on June 15th. The diplomat conducted an audit of the financial expenditures of funds allocated by the United States for Ukraine. So it'd be nice for us to find out more information on this, but we're going to go ahead and move on. All right, so here we go. So let's talk about, starting out, Ukraine. We secured 60 billion annual military support from allies. So the Ukrainian Prime Minister announced that Ukraine has secured military commitments totaling 60 billion annually over the next 4 years, from 20 security agreements signed with its international partners. He made this statement during a government meeting, right? So interesting, very short article. All right, so let's move on. So Russia has bombed the reception bases of Ukrainian F-16s and locked down the West. Ukraine, with MLRS, Poland's division, RDK forces invade Belarus. The bases of Romania and Poland are one way for Ukraine's F-16s. So the security situation in Eastern Europe is intensifying as Russia targets Ukrainian airfields capable of hosting incoming F-16 fighter jets. Russian missiles have destroyed these airfields, complicating Ukraine's plans to deploy the F-16s. The destruction includes significant airfields. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've destroyed 4 very important airfields in Ukraine. Consequently, NATO has considered using airstrips in Poland and Romania for Ukrainian F-16 operations despite Russian warnings that such bases would become legitimate targets. Simultaneously, Belarus is strengthening its border defenses and reported its excursions by the Russian Volunteer Corps, RDK, and drone activities. The RDK, composed of Russian nationalists, have conducted surveys and limited invasion in Belarus and Russia. Belarusian forces, including a division with MLRS, are on high alert, prepared to strike targets in Ukraine if necessary. The military tensions highlight escalating regional conflicts and the potential for broader NATO involvement. Right? There should be a 44-second video in here for us to watch. So 44-second video. Possibly NATO weapons. So Russian missile strikes in Lviv. Possibly a NATO weapon storage site. So it's 44 seconds long. Here it is.
Поехали, 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 Серенький, нахуй отсюда, ва! Давай, газу больше! Вот это пизда, нахуй! Ебать пече, нахуй!
All right. Moving right along. So here we go. So Kennedy showed the most bitter map to the Ukrainians. We're going to look at that map in a second. He says, thank you, Tony Blinken. So independent, right? So independent U.S. President candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. criticized the West for not allowing Kiev to negotiate a peace treaty earlier in the war, which he claims led to unnecessary loss of territory, lies, and financial resources for Ukraine. I actually agree. He stated that a better peace deal could have been made shortly after the war began, with Russia willing to revert to initial invasion lines in exchange for Ukraine not joining NATO. Kennedy blamed U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken for pressuring Ukrainian President Zelensky to reject the deal, resulting in more significant losses for Ukraine. All right, so here's the map. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. posted this. He says, so crazy that Ukraine could have made a much better peace deal if we had let them do so in a couple of weeks after the war started, when Russia was ready to fall back to pre-invasion lines in exchange for Ukraine not joining NATO. We pressured Zelensky, who originally ran on peace. All right, so here's the map that he was talking about. This was before the invasion, right? So that was before the invasion. And then here is what it looks like during the invasion, right? We get an idea of what Kennedy is saying, all right? So we're going to move on. All right, now we're talking about Biden. All right. So concern among Democrats after Waterloo. They are looking for a way to withdraw Biden. Who will replace him? What names do you hear? This was an interesting article. So let's break this down. Right. So following a poor performance, which it was. So following a poor performance by President Joe Biden in a recent debate, there's growing concern among Democrats about his viability as a candidate for the upcoming presidential election. Major international news agencies report that discussions have begun about potentially replacing Biden. Though this is unprecedented in modern U.S. politics, it would be challenging due to party rules. Prominent names mentioned as potential reemplacements. Now listen attentively. So prominent names mentioned as potential reemplacements include Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the former First Lady Michelle Obama, though time constraints make this unlikely. Another name frequently mentioned is California Governor Gavin Newsom. The situation is described as critical, with Democrats exploring all options to ensure a strong candidate against Donald Trump in the upcoming November election 2024. Beautiful. So let's filter through this article. We're going to watch a 1-minute video.
There is no two ways about it. That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
Ben? That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not.
All right. Thank you all again for following. So store food. This article is also interesting. Upset a lot of people in the U.S. Readiness is duty. So this article was interesting. So there is a growing concern, right? So there's a growing concern right now in the United States about potential global crisis stemming from political unrest in the Middle East and also in Ukraine. American media is now urging citizens to prepare by storing food, viewing preparedness as a civic duty rather than a hobby. Where in the media are they doing this? Because I've only found this right here on an international site. So who's reporting this, let me know. But I can only find these sources from an international site, nothing within the U.S. All right. So we're talking about urging citizens to prepare by storing food, viewing preparedness as civic duty rather than a hobby. The advice emphasized the importance of having a food supply to avoid panic and ensure safety during potential disruptions. It suggests that in the times of crisis, it is impractical to start growing food, advocating instead for pre-storing essentials to sustain individuals until normalcy is restored. Normalcy is never going to be restored. This perspective is gaining traction as many believe the current global situation could lead to significant instability. Well, of course, it's going to lead to instability, right? It's going to keep leading to instability. All right, moving right along. So here we go. So the Russians capture Ukrainian New York and enter Torstik. White flag from 6 battalions of the Ukrainian ED. Forced population evacuation. The Russian advance continues at a steady pace. So the Russian forces have captured the Ukrainian town of New York, also known as Novgorod. and are advancing towards Torstek. Ukrainian army is evacuating civilians from Torstek as Russian troops approach its outskirts, gaining approximately 950 meters in depth and 760 meters in width. Force Group Center is pushing from Glorviga to Torstek, breaching Ukrainian defenses. Battles are ongoing. 6 Ukrainian battalions reportedly refuse to fight, contributing to Ukraine's rapid collapse. The U.S.-based Institute for the Study of War notes that Russian advances have been steady and continual, prioritizing gradual progress over significant gains. All right, so we're going to watch 1 video. This one right here.
Если гнать в топку новых и новых людей, но вот я вам могу привести пример. У нас прорыв под Торецком. Думаете, это хорошей жизни? В ближайшее время будет еще несколько. Могу вам привести случай. На одном из ключевых участков фронта позавчера 6 батальонов отказались выполнять боевую задачу. Соседних. 6. Вы думаете, это единственный случай? Вы думаете, такого не будет повторяться? Вы думаете, это не будет идти по нарастающей? Это не так. Несмотря на всю западную помощь, это, потому что в корне лежит неправильное отношение к людям, и люди платят что? Нелояльностью. То же, что было 100 лет назад. Когда 5000 большевиков шло к Киеву, в Украине было 1,5 миллиона солдат с опытом Первой мировой войны. Они бы раздавили и не заметили этих большевиков. Почему они не вышли? Почему 300 студентов вышло? 1,5 миллиона ветеранов, героев, как у нас сегодня говорят. Никто пальцем не пошевелил, пошли студенты. Потому что государство проводило такую политику, тогдашняя власть, что на нее плевать хотели, не было никакой лояльности, не хотели защищать. Мы идем ровно этим же путем. Смотрите на количество поступающих в военное училище, смотрите на количество отказников.
All right, here we go. So Russian invasion in 3 months in Estonia and Latvia, says the U.S. sending NATO forces to Ukraine before the U.S. elections. They asked Germany to prepare its transport network. So the U.S. is preparing to deploy NATO forces to Ukraine, citing intelligence that Russia may invade Estonia and Latvia within 3 months. This prediction contrasts with earlier estimates of a Russian Baltic offensive within 3 years. The U.S. believes Putin aims to capture Kiev and that the conflict in Ukraine is part of a broader struggle with the West. Russia's potential invasion strategy includes mobilizing Russian-speaking minorities in the Balkans to justify intervention. NATO has asked Germany to prepare its transport infrastructure for rapid troop movement eastward, requiring significant investment. Russia warns the direct Western military involvement in Ukraine could provoke confrontation. Here's a map. Zoom in on the map right here. You can see it. So now you can see what the map says. So I'll give you just a few minutes for all you to take a look at that map. It's basically saying how European transportation routes interconnect to NATO's eastern flank, right? That's what that map is showing. Links are always in the description box. As we keep moving on. All right. So it should say no-fly zone. So no-fly zone and takedown. Russia announced rapid reaction measures against NATO. So Russia's defense ministry has warned regarding U.S. spy drones in the Black Sea, announcing rapid reaction measures to prevent incidents. This follows 3 severe incidents in the Baltic, Black, and Syria. Russian foreign minister has called for action against U.S. drone flights, which are supporting Ukrainian forces. There's also speculation that Russia may establish a no-fly zone over the Black Sea to deter foreign military aircraft and drones. Russian political figures and military correspondents have expressed strong support for each measure, especially after recent attacks in Crimea. Three notable incidents illustrate escalating tensions. A Russian Su-35S fighter intercepted a U.S. Navy P-88 in the Baltic. A MiG-31 engaged a U.S. Global Hawk UAV over the Black Sea. And a Russian Su-35 narrowly avoided a collision with U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone Syria. Additionally, a U.S. MQ-1 Gray Eagle UAV crashed in Syria, with reports suggesting it might have been shot down. These developments highlight the risk of direct conflict between NATO and Russia. All right. It wasn't a whole lot in this. You can watch this.
The time has come for Russia to declare a no-fly zone over the Black Sea and basically start shooting down these American drones, which would be a massive escalation if it were to happen.
Why? That's my question that I have with all of this is they've shot down the drones. I believe they shot down 2 drones that we know of.
Yeah, yes.
One was 3-4 weeks ago, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And then I remember a drone that a fighter jet brought down, maybe like a year ago.
Yeah.
If I'm not sure about the timeline, but that's about it. And outside of that, they've been letting these drones just do what they do. I don't understand why they've let the drones operate in the Black Sea. Any other country would have knocked down those drones.
But I mean, we're talking about the Russians and the Americans, and for the Russians to start shooting down American drones over international waters and outside Russian airspace would be unusual, to say the least. Now, let's just unpack this. The United States,
but they are unmanned.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. These are unmanned drones, but remember that if you're going to start shooting down drones, but not start shooting down manned aircraft, then of course you're negating what you're achieving by shooting down the drones, because the manned aircraft can simply take their place. What you are aiming to do is to declare a no-fly zone over the Black Sea. Now, the United States regularly declares no-fly zones. It's done this in several places. We know that in the eve of the American intervention in
All right, so here we go. U.S. begins evacuation of thousands of citizens. Israeli army to invade Lebanon and Syria simultaneously to eliminate Hezbollah. Risk of engagement with Assad forces. U.S. sends 3,500 bombs. All right, so listen attentively. Amid escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, several countries, including the U.S., Germany, and Canada, and others are urging their citizens to leave Lebanon effective immediately. The U.S. plans to evacuate hundreds of citizens via helicopters and aircraft to Cyprus and onward to the U.S. as Israel prepares for military action against Hezbollah. The U.S. is also supplying Israel with significant amounts of military aid, including thousands of bombs. Israeli forces have been conducting drills simulating combat in Lebanon and Syria, indicating preparations for potential simulation invasions of both countries to eliminate Hezbollah and related militias. Israel also aims to create a security zone in Lebanon, pushing Hezbollah forces back. The strategy follows ongoing Israeli airstrikes and ground force concentrations in the Golan Heights and South Lebanon. Despite U.S. diplomatic calls for de-escalation, the situation remains volatile, with mixed messages from the U.S. administration contributing to the tension. The U.S. is prepared to support Israel, though there is concern about potential Iranian involvement in the conflict. All right, so there is a video that's, I think it's 6 minutes long, right? And I don't think we're gonna watch all of it. But we're gonna go ahead and keep moving on. All right, so So out of control Houthis, right, attacked ships in the Red and North Mediterranean with drones and hypersonic missiles. Ambush on 17 IDF soldiers in the West Bank. The U.S. says the Houthis missiles are made in Iran. So the Houthis have expanded their attacks, now targeting. So the Houthis have expanded their attacks, now targeting ships in Eastern Mediterranean, claiming the use of a developed hypersonic missile. They hit Israeli-owned container ship, the MSC Sarah V, in a collaboration with Iraqi missiles, attacked the MSC Mozino. These attacks showcase the Houthis' ability to strike far from Yemen, raising concerns about regional security. In the West Bank, 17 Israeli soldiers were ambushed and injured in Jeddah, highlighting ongoing instability. The U.S. also accuses Iran of supplying the Houthis with advanced missiles despite Iran's denials. The Houthis' increasing missile capabilities, believed to be influenced by Iranian technology, pose significant challenges to regional maritime and military securities. So Germany approves the 3SM, terrifying brimstone Stinger missile developed and procurement programs. He wants anti-ship hypersonic missiles immediately. This article is interesting too. So Germany has approved several critical military procurement programs. These include the acquisition of the Brimstone air-to-surface missiles, Stinger air defense systems, and developing 3SM, terrifying hypersonic anti-ship missiles. The Budget Committee also endorsed the modernization of 4 class frigates to enhance anti-submarine warfare capabilities, with operational readiness expected until 2035. The 3SM terrifying missile developed will receive around 650 million euros until 2027, transitioning to the defense budget. Up to 3,200 Brimstone missiles will be delivered by 2033 for the Eurofighter Typhoon fleet, and 506 Stinger systems will be purchased to replace those sent to Ukraine. Beautiful. And as we continue to move on, right? So Russian President Putin has more serious issues to deal with than the Trump-Biden debate. Don't set an alarm to watch the debate. It wasn't much of that debate, I'll tell you that. So Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated that Russian President Putin did not watch the recent debate between U.S. presidential candidates, emphasizing that Putin has more critical matters to address. Peskov dismissed the significance of the U.S. debate in Russia's agenda. During the discussion, both Biden and Trump discussed Russia, with Trump claiming Putin would have not invaded Ukraine if he respected the U.S. president. Biden reported that allowing Putin to control Ukraine would lead to further aggression. Peskov also commented on the renewal of Ursula von der Leyen's term as European Commission president and the appointment of Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, High EU. Representatives suggesting that these developments did not bode well for EU-Russia relations, citing their known anti-Russian stances. So paranoia. Which country is seeking reparations for Russia for mercenaries killed in Ukraine? They officially put it in Moscow. So Sri Lanka's foreign ministry announced that a delegation led by Deputy Foreign Minister visited Moscow to discuss compensation for the families of Sri Lankan mercenaries killed and injured in Russia-Ukraine war. The talk with the foreign Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudенko and Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin also addressed the early cancellation of contracts and payment of wages for those conscripted. While Sri Lanka's foreign ministry did not specify the number of injured, reports suggest that 2,000 Sri Lankans are fighting on both sides of the conflict. The Russian foreign ministry did not provide needing details, only noting bilateral discussions. Sri Lanka previously shut down a local agency that had recorded civilians to fight for Ukraine. All right. So this one's going to talk about what Denmark is doing with some F-35 fighters. Okay? So we see that Zelensky inspects the city right there for the last time, together the highest military leadership. So Ukrainian President Zelensky visited the frontline city right there, that's in Donetsk region, with top military leaders, including Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky and newly appointed General Andrei Gitov. So Zelensky highlighted Gitov's frontline experience and emphasized his mission to defeat the occupiers and save soldiers' lives. Zelensky also criticized government officials for neglecting the region, promising serious discussions and solutions. He stressed the need for immediate action to support the heavily affected communities in Donetsk. We're not going to watch his video because he's going to be speaking in Ukrainian, and we won't be able to understand what he's saying. All right. So as we get ready to close out, hope you enjoyed this video. So in a recent post, a former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, criticized the new leaders of NATO and the European Commission. He targeted Mark Rutte, the new NATO Secretary General, Ursula von der Leyen, and the European Commission President Kaja Kallas, the new EU foreign policy chief. Medvedev described Rutte as a former moderate who has become a strong Russia-phobic and antagonistic. His comments were delivered in a characteristically, probably sarcastic style and aimed at Western audiences. So he was calling them Russia-phobic and cockroaches and all kinds of funny stuff like that. I think that's going to do us in, right? So basically gave a rundown of everything that's going on internationally for today, right? That's a very, very quick rundown. All right, so thank you all again for following. Okay, I tried to keep it very objective, right? I give you the news with objective summaries, objective point of views, right? No side, right? I'm gonna let you know what everybody's saying so you have an idea what's going on in the world. The more I do this each and every day, you're gonna start seeing how it's all starting to ramp up. Even YouTube has already removed one of my videos, right? They've already removed one. I don't know why, but they removed it, right? I don't even have that many subscribers, nor do I worry about that. But thank you all again for following. I'm going to close out. Let's check our time. All right. So once again, thank you all again for following. Hope you enjoyed this news update. It's JPC Spiritual Talk. It's Jared Wesley Campbell, right? Never hold back, right? Never, ever hold back, right? Get prepared, right? Remember earlier I was talking about there's going to be food shortages, right? So that's why I threw that article in, right? I threw that in for a reason. So get prepared, right? Things are coming down the pipe. I love you all so much, right? May the Lord bless you all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be merciful to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Love you all so much. I'm out.